Pixar Animation Studios, the company supposedly responsible for partially parenting 26 years worth of children, a company that has consistently created the most well-known, well-respected animated features for almost 3 decades. The same Pixar that has won 18 Academy Awards, 10 Golden Globes, and 11 Grammy Awards. I'll stop singing their praises for now because trust me, I'm gonna bring more of these up later solely to retort them, because Pixar Animation Studios is grossly, undoubtedly, stupidly overrated. To start off with, I think that for a period of time, Pixar most certainly deserves all the credit it gets, and then some. That period of time being from 1995, when their first breakthrough film Toy Story was released, to 2008. Ever since then, it's been a downward spiral through and through. The pre-WALL-E era hosted some of the most mind-blowing, trailblazing pieces of animation ever to be released. Movies that pioneered the art form, and played a definite part in every piece of animation that we see today. I would even argue that this era of Pixar was underrated, and most people fail to truly understand just how influential they were. Of Pixar's first 9 movies, only one of them is a dud, that being A Bug's Life, at least in my opinion. And yes, I did enjoy Cars. Also keep in mind that only one of these movies is a sequel. This will be important later. Everyone knows and loves Toy Story unless they're a cynical asshole, or just have a different opinion. Obviously it's not a perfect movie, especially by today's standards, but holy shit was this phenomenal for the time. Not only was it the first real CGI animated film, but it's also just a solid movie in general. It has its problems, its inconsistencies, and the humans look kinda like toys because of the limits on animation at the time. But it deserves its credit for being so influential, and the sequel fixes a lot of these problems, mainly better animation, and definitely the best Toy Story film of the 4. A Bug's Life was just, no thank you. I won't lie, I don't remember a thing about this film, other than I was pretty bored watching it, and I don't think I want to rewatch it for the sake of the video. Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, and Cars are also super good family films that also showed incremental improvements in animation from Toy Story. The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and WALL-E are absolutely the best the company has to offer. These 3 films are among my favourite movies of all time, especially WALL-E and Ratatouille, which certainly look the best. A lot of The Incredibles notably looks kinda like shit now. And whilst Ratatouille is a popular favourite among critics, and is probably admittedly their best film, I can't help but prefer WALL-E. Even though I know it's not as good, makes less sense, and is less consistent, I have to admit that after the masterful first act, the movie dwindles slightly. Still great, but not as great as the first third. I think it might just be due to the nostalgia. I was just the right age for WALL-E to be my Pixar film, the one that I grew up with. I had a DVD of the thing and I legitimately watched it religiously. It had to be at least over 100 times. I watched it every single fucking night as a kid. And that's why Pixar is revered so much as a godly company. It's these emotional connections that it was able to make with its audiences, which when combined with genuinely incredible filmmaking, makes for a thrilling, interesting, and exciting experience. Nowadays, the emotional connections are still there, but the filmmaking isn't in my opinion. And for this reason, modern Pixar films feel forceful and manufactured. Like they have a very specific equation that they just repeat in their movies with the sole aim of making the watcher cry. There are entire scenes and sequences of events that might as well be screaming,
"Look guys, this is it! This is where you're supposed to cry! Look at how sad they are!"
Fucking cry!
Before I move on, I'd like to show you some evidence to support my pre- and post-WALL-E theory. So take a look at the initial teaser for WALL-E.
In the summer of 1994, there was a lunch. Me, John Lasseter, Pete Docter, the late Joe Ranft, all sat down. Toy Story was almost complete. And we thought, well, geez, if we're going to make another movie, we got to get started now. So at that lunch, we knocked around a bunch of ideas that eventually became A Bug's Life, Monsters Incorporated, Finding Nemo, and the last one we talked about that day was the story of a robot named WALL-E.
I mean, what great marketing. It reminds us of the previous movies we love and then introduces us this new one. However, the downside is that it kind of implies everything after WALL-E was a literal afterthought, and unfortunately, it kind of shows. Of the 15 movies since 2008, there are 3 good movies, 1 guilty pleasure, and 11 bad films. many of which go further than bad and enter insultingly horrible territory. And I will specify, don't you worry, a clear degradation from the previous 9 consistently great and incrementally improved films. I don't think I'm being too controversial by saying Up is the best film of the post-WALL-E era, and don't get me wrong, the first 10 minutes of this film are pretty perfect, but it's almost as if people have forgotten that 80 minutes of mediocre content follow the introduction. Toy Story 3 can suck my dick. I mean, it's alright, but god, it's overrated. I will admit the incinerator scene, despite the lead up to it being the dumbest thing in the world, like Lotso being a shitty villain, Slinky getting down from that magnetic ceiling despite being made of metal, and also, how is the combined weight of Woody, Buzz, and Lotso somehow lighter than Woody and Buzz? But the moment itself is really good, and displays the only thing that does improve since WALL-E, that being the animation. The facial expressions of these characters coming to terms with their deaths is super emotional. Pixar's standard for animation continues to be incredible, and as much as I might not be a fan of their modern work, the movies look gorgeous. However, unlike the pre-WALL-E era, there are other animation companies nowadays that can rival with Pixar in terms of animation, like DreamWorks and Sony Pictures and... Actually, that's about it. I've said this before, but it's not just Pixar. Animation as a whole has taken a real nosedive since the fucking Minions took over the world. As well as Toy Story 3, you got Toy Story 4, Cars 2 and 3, Finding Dory, Monsters University, and The Incredibles 2, which are all boring, uninspired, bland, bog-standard sequels and prequels to the Golden Age movies. Some of them are proper stinkers. Onward and Luca are just fucking awful. Coco and Soul are pretty decent, and The Good Dinosaur, I have a lot to say about. It's without a doubt the worst thing the company has ever made, and I hated every single second of watching it. What makes this film especially insulting in comparison to trash like Luca is that even the animation is totally unappealing. And this is what I mean when I say the Minions ruin animation, because The Good Dinosaur suffers from what I like to call the Illumination effect, a tacky, cheap look that is really boring to look at. It's a similar style of animation to Illumination, which is never a good thing considering that company aims to make movies with as low a budget as possible, hence the ugliness. You'll notice that the characters are terribly simply designed and look way too smooth and cartoony, a fucking virus that seeps through every frame in The Good Dinosaur. I remember being really excited at the silhouettes in the initial trailer, only to be disappointed when the designs were revealed to be excessively smooth, and to top it all off, it's just lazily written and boring in general. Another thing WALL-E brought to the table is unnecessary villains. As much as I love that film, part of me wishes there wasn't that thrown-in conflict with the robot thing. I think the movie would be more organic, pleasant, and enjoyable if the movie was purely about robot love, getting back to the Earth and saving the planet. The villain wasn't entirely a necessary addition, as opposed to the villains preceding it, which were natural and made sense in terms of motivation. Robots being evil because programming is a trope that slightly irks me as lazy writing. This is a trend started by Pixar, which is actually spread throughout the entire industry, and it's pretty shitty, because they're just so predictable. And as soon as a seemingly friendly character is introduced, like Lotso, you just know they're gonna turn out evil. Fueled by the traumatizing feeling of uselessness from his previous owner, taking it out on everyone else and promoting a system in which toys are sold promises of being loved forever and being repaired when necessary, only to end up with an owner with no real care for them. Wait, hang on. Isn't that an identical villain story as the Prospector from Toy Story 2? It's almost like these Pixar movies have become the same thing. All of these Pixar movies have become the same fucking thing. Even the trailers have been the same since WALL-E. Yeah, we get it. You used to make good movies. It was cool when you brought them up in the WALL-E teaser, but this manipulative trick is really starting to get fucking old. Let me describe a plotline that could be used to describe almost every Pixar film. The movie starts by introducing a group of main characters who get along swimmingly, and god, everything is just so fucking peachy and beautiful. All of a sudden, a new addition to the group is introduced who our main character doesn't really get along with. But oh no, now the main character has been thrust into a situation where they're forced to be with the newest addition of the group, who they don't like as much as everyone else in the group, in a brand new environment. Now they need to go through an epic adventure through interesting and hilarious settings to get back to the initial starting point. If you really want to spice it up, include a B-plot of the group trying to cope without the two characters but not doing a very good job. Our main character is flawed because they don't think they need help and don't see the good in the newest addition to the group, and so they try to escape them and get back alone, only for it to bite them in the back. However, during the adventure they grow to be friends, and in the climax the main character figures out that the perceived useless character isn't as useless as they previously thought, and that not only do they need help, but they enjoy working with others. It honestly seems as though Pixar doesn't give a shit anymore. Whilst they became popular for breaking the mold, they've now been shaped into consistent predictability. Oh, this kind of looks like a Disney Pixar nostalgia cash grab. Let's give it a watch. Yep, turns out this film is nothing more than a Disney Pixar unspecial nostalgia cash grab kids movie. Also, for whatever reason, every character is a stupid, annoying asshole now. Weird how they changed so much in a movie set on the same day as the last one. Oh wow, a fourth Toy Story? Sorta seems as if they're making movies no one asked for to take advantage of the potential millions that they could make through merchandising. But hey, let's give it a watch and give it a chance. No, that was all it was. A lot of the sequels in particular are just so blatantly factory projected, designed to make money. These movies were no one's passion projects. Nobody dreamed of making Cars 3. And I understand that big budget animation exists solely to make money, so they could be good if some care was actually put into them, but no one working on these films gives a shit, and so they come out pretty soulless. But hey, who can really blame them? Why put any effort into these movies anymore when companies like Illumination are making far more money using far less money? They are legitimately a fucking plague who have ruined the industry and set a trend of lazy filmmaking. Thanks, Minions, you fucked it for everyone. You've ripped the soul out of every modern animated film. Speaking of Soul by Pixar was pretty dumb. I mean, I'm not gonna go into it for the same reason I haven't gone too in-depth on any film I've mentioned so far, because this video isn't really about them, it's about the studio as a whole. I can't really zone in on one film, but because the formula is so similar for each one, I might as well be talking about them all at once. And with Soul in particular, the ending really frustrates me. For those who don't remember, or just didn't see it, the movie ends with the main character putting a noble sacrifice and accepting his fate of death. Sound familiar? Of course it does, but like every single fucking animated movie, he's saved right at the last second. In this case, Terry pops up and is like, hey, you should definitely be dead, but we think you're pretty cool, so you can stay. Just fuck off! I thought the whole point of your company was to make us emotional. You literally have a movie where the main characters are emotions. How are we supposed to feel connected to any of your characters when there are absolutely zero goddamn stakes? Did you name this film Soul as a lousy attempt to distract us from how manufactured and artificial it realistically is? Because it kind of fucking seems so. Whilst we're at it, can you stop releasing movies so often? We don't need 2 Pixar movies a year. Just focus on making some genuinely good movies at a slower pace. But oh, wait a second, that's not nearly as profitable, is it? Why are all of your trailers so focused not on getting us excited, but for anticipating us to cry during the movie? It really shows us what you prioritize as a company. Can you stop being so focused on getting us to cry? Because when you try this blatantly hard, it kinda doesn't work as well. Did anybody even watch Onward? I don't know one single person who watched Onward, and I'm the only person I know who saw The Good Dinosaur. Why is Cars 3 the stupidest shit to ever exist in the history of anything ever? Why is Finding Dory the stupidest shit ever to exist in the history of anything ever? Seriously, why are there 4 fucking Toy Story films? Why are you taking inspiration from the most hacked company in the film industry, let alone animation? Bless everybody who worked on Spider-Verse. Why does everyone think Up was your last great movie? It was only great for like 10 minutes. Whatever happened to stop motion, man? What are Aardman and Studio Canal doing? Not too active at the moment, but wait, what Chicken Run 2? It's really unfortunate that the animation in animated films has continued to improve massively, but the stories have become so much less interesting. Why is Luca the stupidest shit ever to exist in the history of anything ever? How did that girl in Inside Out get a broccoli pizza? Was there not a menu? Why the fuck would she order that if she didn't like it? What the fuck is this? So to conclude, Pixar went to shit when the team started changing and they started running out of ideas. I guess you could say they overstayed their welcome. Also, fuck Illumination, we're done here, bye.